For today's session, Sembang Chillex podcast, we will be talking about ESG, and we have our guest over here, Dr. Leong, from Utah Kampa, and Dr. Leong is the IEM ESG expert, the focal point that we go to. Okay, a little bit about Sembang Chillex podcast. Sembang Chillex podcast is created for the members so that they can actually get information on what is going on with IEM and what's hot in IEM right now. So that's the reason why we bring in today's topic, which is about the Simplified ESG Disclosure for Built Environment. Okay, what exactly is that guideline and why was it created? Why is IEM onto it? And then what exactly is inside there? So today we are going to have all of those of those questions answered. And the other thing that we would like to share as well, this interview or this Sembang Chillex podcast that we have today will also be translated into the cover story for the May 2025 Julitora magazine. So you will be able to read about what we talk about today in this particular episode. So before we go on into a bit of detail, probably Dr. Leong, I know you very well, but probably our listeners and viewers out there would like to know a little bit about you. Can you talk a little bit about yourself, like what makes you an expert in this area? Go ahead, Dr. Leong.
Thanks, Razak. I think thanks for the invitations to this Sembang Chillex. I think I'm Dr. Leong here. Actually, I'm the Deputy Dean for the Faculty of Engineering and Green Technology, Utah Kampa campus. But I myself also an IEM member. I serve in the Perak branch as a HonSec for 3 years. And then now just only got appointed as the Vice Chairman for Perak branch for 2025 to 2026. Okay, the question is why I actually into this ESG. Actually, I started this when PLC started to ask me about ESG, about sustainability since 2022, or since 2021 during pandemics. Because I think my background is from the environment, so that's why I think the nearest is to related back to sustainability. I think that's how from there on I actually evolved, and then now I'm actually advising a lot of PLC SME to fulfill their requirements by Bursa Malaysia especially. And then now is beyond the compliance, is also how I actually journey with the company in terms of achieving net zero even before 2050. Yeah, that is where I actually come in. And then later I'll share a little bit more how we actually, from that link back to what we are having a discussion for today, on the Simplified ESG Disclosure.
That's great. Thank you very much, Dr. Leong, for the intro over there. But also, I would like to, talk a little bit about IEM is very much supporting the idea of ESG as well as the entire sustainability agenda. Apart from the ESG working group, which Dr. Leong is actually involved in, we also have a task force called the Towards a Responsible Tomorrow, towards a responsible future, where we how we want to make sure that the future generation can actually enjoy whatever that we have today. Okay, all right. So back to the topic that we want to focus on today, in this particular episode, which is Simplified ESG Disclosure for Built Environment. Okay, let me just be honest. The whole title sounds a little bit like a bit above me, Number one that people have in mind would be, why is it focusing on built environment, and what exactly are we focusing on over here? We know about ESG, we know about sustainability, but what exactly why basically are we focusing on this built environment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, I think. But first, let me explain why simplified. Because when this kicked in 2022, when Booster first announced in 26th of September, where all the PLC needs to submit their sustain report, there's a lot of frameworks being thrown to the market. And I think there's a lot of confusion, especially from the engineer side, because we are all very technical people, and you suddenly throw this like sustainability, all these kind of framework, another compliance, ISO, it might be a little bit heavy for the engineers, especially for engineers to actually pick it up. That is where we come in to see that why not we digest all the framework that is available in local and even in the global context, for example, like GRI. Why not we digest on behalf of all the engineers, and then why we not simplify it into our very own version? But bear in mind that whatever we are simplifying is actually also aligning with all the global standard, because we cannot run away. At the end of the day, organization out there will just need to submit the report, but they also need to fulfill certain of the framework. That is where Simplify come in. We actually digest all the framework, and then we consolidate into our very own Simplify version. But the question is why built environment is because we believe that at that point of time when we developed this guideline, we think that the built environment is a sector that is from all the engineering discipline, built environment is the one that we actually created or emitted a lot of carbon emissions. That is where we actually try to assist built environment sector first. But along the way, we was thinking of this, whatever we actually produce or define in the guideline, it actually suits all the organizations. So that's why in maybe in other terms or maybe in the futures, we are going to revise it into a more common, because we find that all the elements is actually suits even manufacturing, because when we run a lot of roadshow with all the engineers, we find that this also fit them well. So that's basically it cover all the engineering sector. But during that time when we actually start off this, we wanted to go and focus on built environment because they are one of the big carbon emission as compared to other sectors.
Okay. Now that explains it, but that's why, because I come in from the oil and gas industry, so I was wondering why did he make the ESG disclosure or guidelines for the built environment and not for ONG. So basically, this particular guidelines can also be applied on oil and gas as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So in the future, the working group is working on the next guidelines, which will actually open to all different sectors. Okay, if you can talk a little bit, how different would ESG be treated from one industry to the next? Is it too big of a difference, or is it like something quite common between them?
No, it won't have a huge difference. It's just mainly in terms of the indicators, in terms of the certain parameters might not be the same for each of the industry, but generally it's all the same. The main indicators will be all the same. For example, I give you an example of, let's say, on the environment pillar, we will need to report on energy, water, then your air emissions, and then your gas GHG emissions. All these are the same for all discipline. I mean, your water consumption, regardless you are coming from, even from the consultant side or even from the EE or even from oil and gas, you still have water consumption. Same goes to energy. But in terms of the details of it, maybe the example, the amount, that would be something that differentiate between the different sector. But generally, all the 11 indicators that we actually stated in the guideline is actually across all disciplines, because that we follow the local requirements from Bursa Malaysia. But the example is going to be different, but the main gist of it is the same.
Okay, so the areas or the focus that we look into in each part are the same, but the details that goes along with it and how basically we want to portray a certain industry or a certain company organization would be different. Yeah.
Yep.
So
you're right.
Okay. Going back to the how engineering, usually when we talk about engineering, we talk about design, we talk about the site operations and things like that. How much of ESG is actually embedded into all of these areas?
Yeah. Especially we are engineers, we are very practical persons. I think since the day when we are in schooling or in university, we are actually being taught that as engineer, you need to optimize the cost. Cost is always very, very important for engineer. But in today's context, I think if we need to move beyond cost, we need to also consider cost. But now we also need to put in one environment, the environment issues or environment element into our considerations, especially for design purpose. How are we able as an engineer to minimize our waste? How can we actually optimize our design so that we can actually minimize the waste? And through this kind of exercise or this kind of optimized design, we were able to save a lot of waste, and then indirectly we are actually preventing the emissions of carbon emission, the CO2, because a lot of waste actually generated the CO2, and then that's also relate back to how much of raw material that we can actually reduce. So engineer play a very, very important role, especially to tackle the environment. On the social and governance pillars, I think even PLCs or big organizations, even SME, they don't have a big issue, but they have to struggle is actually the environment, as where we as an engineer come in, because every design actually start from an engineer. So the design stage is very important. It's very critical. So now I would say not just cost, but you need to include the environment element into your design consideration.
I think that is a very, very interesting point that you brought over, because when we talk about organization, even for the oil and gas industry, yeah, most of the organization will not have issues with a social, will not have issues in terms of a governance. Everything is basically documented, and we are doing great with people's around us, and so on and so forth in our operations. It's the environment. And also within the environment itself, it's not about how ethical we need to be, but it's more on trying to abide to the regulation that we have in a certain country and certain local local authorities or certain region, for example. So that is the main area. A question for you, Dr. Leong, is for the environment part, in other industry, what are the areas which is hard for organization to actually abide to?
Still remain back the environment, because the environment is really the key. And then now you can see even most of the scorings or
But why environment? Why environment?
Because that is the hardest for us to tackle. Like just mentions, we do the bare minimum. We comply with all the regulations, the DOE, but we never go beyond. We always just okay. This is the
Of
minimum.
course, if beyond will cost a lot more.
Yes,
How
that's
am
why
I going to survive?
That's why this is a challenge for engineers. How are we able to optimize it? And then how are we able to change that, bring that in terms of reduction in terms of your cost or your operation cost, and then bring back the revenue to the organizations. That's why the environment pillar is always the last pillar for organization to tackle, because that really needs the experts, like from the engineer side, and then it needs to start from the design stage. You cannot, like for example, in the construction industry, you cannot do any of the changes once the building is already out. You must, at the stage of design, you really need to see that, can I reduce the cement usage? Can I change the concrete wall to glass? That's really at the design stage, not like a completion stage. A building, you cannot do much. So that's why environment pillar is always the hardest for any sectors to come on board for sustainability.
I share the same concern with you as well, because, for example, in the oil and gas industry, in drilling, because after you have drilled the well and then you have produced it for like 30, 40, 50 years and so on and so forth, you will need to go back and plug and abandon the particular well. And in that area, the requirement, it is wasn't the requirement. It is what we call as the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to install back the environment the way it was before we come in and do the drilling. That's the that's the whole idea of it. However, in for us to actually do that, it will cost like millions and millions, and it will not be economical at all. Therefore, as an engineer, we will need to find that
Yeah.
balance. Question that actually have just now, I think you heard the question, isn't it? It's a part where we will need to balance between what is the aspiration of putting back the environment the way it was to getting the safest mode of design for us to abandon that particular well. So probably you can touch a little bit on that, Dr. Leong.
That's where the engineer play a very important role. That's why we engineers how to see how can we actually draw the balance, because you must bear in mind that this ESG or sustainability is a long-term thing, it's a journey. So we have a role to play is how are we able to gauge, how are we able to jaga the environment, and how in the same time makes the organization still maintaining, getting profit, still able to survive. That's why it's very important that Booster, which is a very financial institutions, come in and say that I want a sustainability report. The reason behind is they want a company to sustain, not that today we want you just to comply with all these and then end up you don't even have a revenue to make. Then you cannot sustain your organization. But in this, you must see how are we able to draw benefit out of this implementation of this journey, and then use whatever saving or allocate some part of it to put it back to the environment. That is where we see how we draw the balance. I think now very interesting is that our government's actually started to see to help back the oil and gas. Just now you mentioned about the well, Razak. That is now is a place for us to store carbon emission. This is something that we do back to the environment, which is a very good concept that we drill, but we need to pay back. We need to do something back to protect the environment back to the original piece. And that is where now this CO2 pumping back. And then this is where you generate money to support all these operations or the maintenance of this well. So that is where engineer come in, the technology and expert to able to store the CO2 under this X well or these kind of things. Yeah.
I guess for the oil and gas industry, we always try to do the best that we can for the environment. That is basically, at the back of our mind, feeling guilty that we are actually, ravaging the earth to actually get the hydrocarbon from the earth. But I think the more interesting fact is that in each of the organization, we always have the responsibility to take out some of the profit or the money that we have allocated for a certain organization or for a certain operation into the environment part of it. Yeah, I think that's very important, and I think we talk a lot about the environment. And the topic that we want to talk about is ESG. So we should not be leaving behind the S and also the G part. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the social part. Yeah. So in the social part, for you, what are the most important things that an organization will need to focus on? Many people are doing CSR, CSR. It has become so cliche kind of thing. But is there any other thing that people or the organization can focus on other than CSR?
Yeah. So very interesting about this whole idea of sustainability or ESG is CSR now has been like a term that everyone will do, to the extent that it become like I must do. It's just for the sake of doing it. But now when we enter this sustainability journey or ESG implementations, we are looking into more about the impact. Today, whatever thing that we are doing, it should be impactful. If today you do a CSR program just for the sake of doing, then it will never bring credits or values to this ESG journey. So like CSR now, you need to go beyond the dollar and cent, but you look into the impact. I give a very good example is in the rating agency for ESG rating, they don't really see the amount. Even with one of my clients that they actually spend 5,000, but the CSR program is very impactful, but they can score a maximum score for the rating. Rather than you put in 100,000, but we don't see impact. The 5,000 they do is they just gather their staff and then they go to I think Port Dickson to do bleach cleaning. Then all the rubbish they actually collected, they segregate it into plastic, paper. Then I come in to help them to convert that into CO2. And that is amount of rubbish they actually collected, and this is the amount of CO2 being emitted to the atmosphere. So you can see even 5,000 can bring such an impact rather than you just pump in 100,000 to an organization and then you don't know what they are doing with your 100,000. So that's now very important for CSR. But like you say, social is beyond CSR. I think the other thing is very key for social is how are we ethically being treating our employee. Our employee is our asset for organization. If today, I always tell the organization out there, if today your turnover rate, which is also one of the indicators under the social pillar, if your turnover rate is very high, your stakeholder will look at you as an organization, just nothing different than an academy. You are just a training center. You cannot sustain your business because you have a lot of turnover. You train your staff leave. It will actually benefit your peers. But you as your own organization, you will never make money. You will never able to make to the next level to make more profit. Then I don't think your stakeholder will come and invest. That is what also relate back to the impact. But you have to ask me, social is just about employee, is really biggest asset. And then now on the social part, they talk a lot of human rights. The what you call the minimum wages that our government put in, does the company actually fulfill or not? So that's now really a key for the social. And then I don't think now the key for social is on the CSR already. Unless you have something very, very impactful, then it bring about. But the more is on the human rights and the labor, the employee itself.
The internal part of it as well as the external part of it, yeah. So
Correct.
basically, that's why many organizations focusing on the external part of it. You give money to a charity organization and so on and so forth, and consider it as a CSR, while actually their own employees are hungry at 10 a.m. without any biscuits in the office, isn't it? So
Yeah,
if you
correct.
put in like biscuits in the office and also coffee machine over there,
Makes a lot
and
of difference.
and your employees are very happy, then you probably
Yes.
score a little bit over there, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Internally have not taken care of. Because like I said, previously they just take care of external because it's a form of marketing. It's just to portray a very good image to the public. But internally, all your real asset, the people who really fight for your organization to make the company grow and bring profit, bring revenue, but you don't appreciate them. That is a bit
yeah,
lacking.
that,
You
that,
need to
that is
balance
very,
too.
very true.
You need to have internal and external.
Great that we have this conversation. Great that basically people if our viewers and listeners actually take point on this, and these are the things that you can actually find in the simplified ESG disclosure for built environment. And so it's not just about the environment for construction and so on and so
Yeah,
forth. You know, disregard
of
all
course.
of that.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and pick a copy of this, which is available in our website. So all you have to do at the Google. So what I did was ESG and also IEM, and it
Yes.
actually directly straight away go to this particular guidelines for people to actually have this. And
And
one more thing that I think people want to know as well, Dr. Leong, is this a sustainability report is not just for the companies who wants to file for at the Bursa, but it's basically good for everyone. Can you talk a little bit about that?
yes. That's why yes, it's a requirement for PLC and the ACE market because they are the big giant. But like you said, the sustainability reporting is not just for this big giant, even to the extent of SME. That's why in our guide, one of it is also we actually put in the template. We have a what we call a guided templates for sustainable reporting. We even draft certain common statements so that you can actually have an idea to kickstart for your reporting. It doesn't matter that you need to have like 200 pages or 100 pages. That is all the PLC because they have more contents to report. It can be for an SME if you fulfill all the 11 indicators, which SME can do also, because all these data are all there. Just that previously you have not consolidated into a proper reporting. It's just that all the data are everywhere, different departments, but I'm sure that you have all the data. So you can consolidate all that data. You probably will come out to a page around maybe 20 to 30 pages, which is a very good start for SME. Then from there, you slowly progress and you grow and you put in more content. When times come by, you have good initiative, then you will add on to the reporting. Remember, this is a journey. But one thing I need to highlight is, I heard Razak have not mentioned, and this guideline can be downloaded free. This is a
Yes, it's
benefit to all
free.
the engineers. It's free. Yeah, it's free for all engineers. Yes.
All you have to do is log in as your member, and then you will be able to download it for free. Yeah.
Yes.
But we suggest you not to print it because you will be chopping trees unnecessarily. And
Yes.
yeah, so so that is the first step towards the E part of the
Yes,
ESG.
correct.
Okay, Dr. Leong, moving on, I think we will need to talk a little bit more about these ESG, and let's now go a little bit on the G side, which is the governance. Can you
Mm.
talk a little bit about that?
Okay, governance is the strongest out of the three pillars. I don't think any organization will struggle. If you look into some of the, especially on the big giant or even SME, they can score almost the maximum point because if you fail in governance, I don't think your organization can sustain until today lah. Okay, not even talking about social and environment, but on the governance side, it's more on the policy like anti-corruption policies, your data privacy policy mechanism. I'm pretty sure all organizations out there will not release or kind of personal data of your customers or even to your extent of your staff. So that's all part of the governance. But to put in a little bit more substance to governance is actually for PLC because of the gender equality. That's why IEM also we have women sections. So they will need to have a 30% of women in the board of directors. That is also now some of the big giant actually struggling. It is really to celebrate the diversity, but on a different perspective, for my own opinion, is actually it will bring a different scenario or a different setup to an organization. If a board of directors with actually having all males, it will be a little bit more structured and more rigid. But if you have a women to actually on board, they will bring a different perspective to the whole sort of discussion. That is also why it is so important in the sustainability reporting is because company can grow because you have coming from a different perspective. Girls or women look things differently than a male, So that will bring a very strong dynamics to an organization, and then the organization can grow. That is really the reason of why when there is a 30% of women. But generally, it's all about policies and mechanism that organization will take, which is I don't think a big issue for even SME. PLC definitely no issue, but SME also I don't think have a big issue of this.
Yeah, this is the part where many organizations, you talk a little bit about the gender equality and also the share of gender in an organization. I think some organization actually do have some issues trying to meet that requirement. The reason is because from having like probably getting a lady versus a man for that position. But the man is more qualified technically but than the woman. However, because of the gender equality requirement, the woman has to come in. What is your comment on that?
I would say that is the organization actually provide platform to groom the ladies. If yes, then I think we will be on par. I mean, we are quite of equal. But I think previously, when all these things have not popped up, we kind of neglect this group. We're not saying we neglect, but we actually give them a very least kind of opportunity or platform for them to shine. I think ladies has bigger responsibility, and then ladies are actually prone more to towards family. But are we assisting them to solve that family issue? Are we providing them place, like for nursery, all these like kids, who will take care of the kids? Are we actually giving that platform to assist them so that they will be more focused on their technical part? I mean, they are on job. If we're able to do that, I think they will come almost equal or can I say equal with the gentleman. So that's the
Okay,
question.
okay, Dr. Leong, looking at this, you realize whenever that we have this conversation, we kind of like shift a little bit towards the gender, which falls under social rather than the governance. And that's the thing that I think our listeners and viewers should understand. ESG is not like ESS and
Yes.
GG. They are all interrelated to each other. Yeah,
Yes,
talk a little bit about that.
you bring is very good point. I always tell my client, you were never able to segregate E, S, and G. All these are together. If you do good on your G, you were able to retain back your employee. That means your asset. And your asset, this group of employee will do good, will try their very best to help the environment because they know best of the organization. If they are engineer, they know best about the operation. But if you don't do good on them, you don't have a very strong governance, your board of directors are also tidak apa attitude, I don't care, then yours directly in your staff also, my boss also don't care, why I need to care? Then it will directly transfer back to the environment. I also just do whatever I can. I don't even think of how to minimize or optimize my design. This is my usual design. My boss like it. That's it. I don't even want to propose anything new. Then if you never do, everything will be stagnant, and then you're actually going down for. When people are going upwards, you're actually going down because you are stagnant. You're very
Yeah,
good, very good point. You must integrate all these three pillars together. When we also write reporting, we also try to correlate. We don't even to see people when we read our reports, it's only about environment, social, and government. It should be all interlinked. The three must be interlinked. Yeah.
yeah. It's the same for the engineers who took the competency
Yeah.
examination, yeah, all the five elements that they have to actually go through, they are all interrelated to each
Yeah.
other. So one item can actually answer all of that area. So
Ethics is the one that governance strongly, engineers, that's why I say all engineers really part of the governance. You have a very strong ethics. And thinking now, with this popping up, I think a lot of organizations really, really move away, like no give policies, then anti-corruptions. All these are very, very bare minimums. I wouldn't say it's not happening, but I think it's very, very bare minimum now in our industry, which is very, very good. Yeah.
and one interesting point that we are going to have IEM is going to have the first sustainability report in
Yeah.
the AGM next month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about that? Just give them a snippet. Our viewers and also the listeners would like to actually know a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, when we are actually going around to talk to engineers, we guide engineers, then we also think that, hey, why not, even though IEM is not listed in Bursa, I'm pretty sure that none of the organization out there actually asked us for this reporting. But I think it's a very good initiative from IEM itself to really report because we are also a carbon emitter. We use energy, we use water, our business travel for the employees. What is our employee commuting? I think more interesting is people also want to know how many staff that we have in IEM in HQ. But in the first round, we were actually covering the HQ first, but slowly we will evolve to the branches, hopefully. But at least we now start with the HQ because I think some people might ask us in IEM HQ, how many IEM staff that we have? We probably might not have the number for the engineer out there to actually, want to think to know. That's something that we're going to report in the coming, our first IEM's sustainability report, which is going to be launched in AGM. Yeah.
Naturally, IEM is an NGO organization. We practically are strong on the social part, most probably, and we probably don't have much issues in the form of environment. And in terms of governance, I don't know how much that we actually have, but we do have audited report and things
Yeah.
like that. So how would you say we are going to successfully obtain our sustainability report for this
Yes.
year?
For us, we are pretty more simple than the industry because we are not industry, we are not manufacturing. Manufacturing sectors is the one that is hardest. Like for example, construction also is the hardest. But for us, like an NGO, we are more like a consultant, but not really like a consultant because consultants still, look into the design. But I think we also have a role to play is after this, we need to ask ourselves, okay, are we able to save certain amount of energy? If we can, then it's a cost saving for IEM. Are we actually wasting our energy? But now we don't know because we don't have the figure. We don't have the what we call the baseline. We won't know the total amount. Okay, only
We
maybe
do
the
have a
finance will
lot
know.
of we do have a lot of initiatives that we have
Yeah.
done. IEF has done a lot of initiative. I think the same as other organization as well. They have been
Yes.
doing all of these good initiatives. It's just that it's not documented in
Yes.
a format which you can tell everyone that you are ESG compliant.
Right. You're right. I think that's why one of the benefit that we want to draw out for IEM is we do a lot of good activities. We are very strong on social, not just governance, but social. I think we are very strong. But this actually not being highlighted. I think not just only the fellow engineers should know all this. I think the public out there, non-engineer, should see that, oh, IEM has actually a lot of impactful activities that is actually contributing to the society. Maybe not so much about environment, but lately I see the last 2 years, we are also focusing a lot of environment. So all this information need to push to the market that, hey, IEM is actually doing way a lot, not just only helping the engineer, but the whole society in Malaysia. I think that's what's my intention with the team who want to bring it out for the first reporting. I think we need, like I always mentions to all the participants who are actually joining our roadshow, so highlight all the good things for your organization first, because this one is really, you already have done it. You already, been doing it for the many years. Highlight those first, then only slowly to see what are some of the drawbacks, some of the things that or area that you can actually improve. Then along the way, you improve on that. That will give you a very strong confidence to come on board.
And consciously improving ourselves.
Yes, you're right.
Hey, okay, going back to the guidelines that we want to talk about over here, the simplified ESG disclosure for built environment. In terms of the content, we talk a little bit about the E, we talk about the S, and we talk about G. But in terms of the content of this ESG disclosure or the guidelines, what else can you talk a little bit about that?
The guide actually provides even to the extent of the simple example for our fellow engineers to actually pick it up and start to report the information, because we don't want to put in the big chunk words or very technical words until people also get haywire. So when we develop the guides, we also ensure that all the terms that we use are all common terms, all layman terms. There's no bombastic word. You don't even need to go to the dictionary and find what is this word. All these are very general words for the ease of the members to come on board. Yeah.
Okay, we got that, yeah? All right. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Leong. And in terms of the requirement that you have in the guidelines, you mentioned that you already have the example, you do have a checklist inside there, and the whole idea of bringing this guidelines to our members to make sure that to encourage them to actually make use of it. And in the future, you are looking at having a guideline which is open to all, even though right now everyone can actually use it, not just the built environment. So, can you talk a little bit about the future of what you have in mind for the IM members, guide for them to do in this ESG?
Like I mentioned just now, ESG is a journey, so definitely things will evolve. Even now, the emission factors that we put into the Simplified has changed. So we will definitely come up with the second editions, but we will want to wait until a little bit more, maybe after the end of this year, because 2026 CBAM will come in place. Our Malaysians are also talking about carbon tax. So let's just wait for what's going to put up on Malaysia context. Then we will definitely come up with the second edition. We won't have a different set. I mean, we won't have another guideline saying that simplified ESG guideline for manufacturing. But we will definitely revise on this first version so that we only have one document, one guideline on ESG under the IEM. But we will keep improving it based on the evolvements, the dynamic, the changes from the market, so that we are also able to project a more updated information to the public or to our fellow engineers. I give you a very good example is even Bursa on 2022, they mentioned about the TCFD, which is a financial report related to climate change. They only require Bursa, PLC to submit in 2025. But last year, our government has actually announced that we were going to replace this with ISSB. So you can see things change very fast. So that's why we will want to see what's being put on Malaysia Contact this year. Then definitely we will come up with a second edition, improvise. Then I think that time we will make it a bit more general. I mean, definitely the title will need to be revised to make it a bit more general across all engineering discipline. Yeah.
Yeah, and not just for built environment, but it's basically probably for engineering organization.
Yes.
Engineering
Yeah.
organization probably would be,
All right.
better
It will
suited.
definitely caters for all engineers. Even like in today's context, it really cater, but just that, yeah, the time we actually really wanted to focus on built environment. Yeah.
You brought a very good point just now. ESG is evolving.
Yeah.
It keeps on changing in terms of the requirement, in terms of the parameters that we look at, and so on and so forth. And I think all of us will need to get ourselves updated. And in these guidelines, IEM will try to help its member to
Yeah.
actually keep abreast and keep up to date with what is going on in the ESG realm. And that's the
Yeah.
reason why we have Dr. Leong heading the ESG working group as well. So,
Yes.
any last words for our viewers and listeners out there, Dr. Leong?
Okay, I think for all fellow engineers, don't really scared about the big name, sustainability, ESG. And then I think a lot of bosses also come to us and say, hey, it's going to be an additional cost. Don't look at all that. Look at something that is positive. And I think that if you really embark on this journey, you will able to draw a lot of benefit rather than just a compliance to your client. But I'm more worried if fellow engineers, if you don't come on board, you will probably wash out from the market, because your client, if you are supporting PLC or ACE market, probably they really start to ask you this year already, or even late last year, because you are actually part of their supply chain. This is a whole entire chain cycle. And then why, like us in IEM as an NGO, because I'm pretty sure in the future, if you want to get funding from organizations, they will probably ask you about your sustainability report, because we are part of it. We are part of this ecosystem. We cannot run away. Unless today you are staying in jungle, you don't use anything, you don't emit any carbon, then maybe you can claim yourself as, oh, okay, this is not related to me. But as long as you are breathing the air, you are actually contributing to the carbon emission.
All right. You brought a good point just now. It's the requirement of ESG. Yeah? If we take a look at uh, the why basically we need to abide to, and if say for example people or organization that does not actually embrace the ESG right now, they would be just like you know we
Yeah,
drifted away
correct.
from the market. And I think that's a very interesting point and a very good point, because I used to think that ESG is one of the hoax like the Y2K. Yeah. uh, and I think that's a fair comment, considering
Yes.
that, because it is actually adding cost. And now that you mentioned in the guidelines, you find a way to actually present certain elements without much cost to the organization. Because I did attend I did attend some of these meetup of SMEs, yeah, SMEs. They were complaining about, okay, main con has to abide to the PLC. PLC
Yeah,
has to abide to Bursa. But the ones that has to bear all of the costs are the SMEs
uh,
supporting the main con. And they
correct.
said that their price of things is up by 30%.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is where you will need to find your guideline over here and find a way to
Correct.
have a sustainability reporting that abides to the requirement without much expense to your organization.
Because the reportings will actually help you to consolidate all the data, and then the data is actually a form of information for your improvement. Because if you don't have the data, you will not know how much that I spend in this material, how much that I spend in my energy. Can I do something to reduce the energy consumption, to reduce my cost? That is a cost saving for organization. But if you don't have this report, you will never know where is your position. You will just say, oh, okay, this has been usual. This amount of money I spent for energy is been many, many years, but you don't find a way to see, can I reduce it? Can I do something to my equipment? Can I do something to my chiller or anything to reduce the energy? So that's is really a operation cost. And another a very interesting example that I can give you, Razak, is, or to all the fellow engineers, is one of my clients is actually, now we are moving away from paperless. By cutting down the number of papers that you use, it's also an operation cost saving. It might not be big, but if you multiply with 5 years, 10 years, you see a figure there. So that is also easiest for us to kind of do our cost saving, especially for operation, because I understand operation cost is always very high for any organization.
And I think another good point that you brought as well, when we do this sustainability reporting, we are comparing our operations year to year, and we
Yes.
can actually see
Yeah.
the reduction in terms
Yes.
of the expenses and so on. And it also trains your organization to actually, to actually analyze your operations.
Correct.
That
It
is.
should be an encouragement to the employees that, okay, today your department, let's say you are from the operation side, okay, your department, you give me things of way how to reduce this. Whatever cost saving, you translate back to them as a reward. Maybe not 100%, maybe 50%. At least the organizer can save 50% and your staff can get the benefit of 50%. I'm pretty sure your staff will brainstorm and find a way to help you to reduce. But you definitely need to reward them. I think Malaysians, we like to be rewarded. Even with a very minimum appreciations is also is good enough. I think your staff will all go all out for your organization.
So giving the carrots, giving the
Yes.
carrots, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, all right. I think we have reached the end of our session. So thank you very much, Dr. Leong, for the answers that you provided on ESG. And I hope all of our members actually will be able to download the Simplified ESG Disclosure for Built Environment, so that they can actually start doing this for their organization and start practicing, what is going to be the valuable outcome for them. All
Yeah.
right. Until next time, thank you very much for all our audiences over there who basically are listening to us or watching us on YouTube. And until the next episode, thank you.
Thanks, Razak. Thank you, everyone.